Now, a huge change in customer demands, at least from banking,
Yeah.
is the increased amount of cross-border payments, especially
True.
when it comes to commercial
Yeah.
and small medium enterprise business. So with that in mind, how are cross-border payments changing, and what role is technology in facilitating that change?
Cross-border payments earlier meant, and again I remember I'm sitting in Sibos and Swift. Cross-border payments just meant Swift earlier, right? And what's happening in the industry of payments per se is it is no longer necessarily a revenue generating stream, because of the level of options or the number of options which are now available to customers to manage cross-border options, just by the players themselves, but also now technology enabling other options coming in, which means that payments in a sense are becoming a commodity to a large extent, definitely in the retail space, but in the corporate space as well, moving into becoming a commodity, right? And not necessarily at the heart of it being just a revenue stream to the banks. They are an essential part of what banks do, right? Now with technology, blockchain is a classic example. You can see the number of banks who are here who are experimenting with blockchain essentially in the area of cross-border payments.
Yeah.
Now with the changing what I would call geopolitical situation as well, again payments regulation specifically will become more complex. And with technology in a sense driving this in a completely opposite direction, technology are making it, I would call it far more democratic, far more global. So you could do a blockchain payment between two individuals if the technology exists and is operational without having to go through let's say the exchange controls, as an example.
Yeah.
Right? So that marrying of regulations and technology being far ahead of regulations, is going to be critical for the cross-border industry, apart from all the remaining things which you would hear about this becoming a commodity, technology enabling, etc. So technology will play a key role. You're just speaking of blockchain, there could be other things which come up in play. The AI in fraud management is a brilliant example. How do I anticipate a fraud being done, a fraud being prevented because now I've seen something wrong, and stopping it is very different from me anticipating a fraud in using, let's say, machine language or AI. Now, these are areas where technology will definitely help.
What have been some of the biggest changes, and how has technology been playing a part in that?
Yeah, well, we're also sitting here as well on the 50th anniversary of Swift's origination, if you like, or birth. And if you look at that evolution and starting out with telexes and probably telegrams and courier pigeons at the time, but we've really seen that transition to looking at how we can be digital champions, even in how we move funds across borders. And when you look at that expectation from society as well of instant gratification and so on, we need to continue to leverage that and respond to that as the industry for getting payments to their end point within minutes or seconds ideally. And technology is enabling that, but a key part of that is going to be common standards that everybody implements in the same way to ensure that we reduce that friction and expedite those payments.
How is SunTec contributing to this changing payments ecosystem?
I'll take one simple use case, right? You take a corporate relationship with a bank.
Yeah.
Even if it's a large corporate, if it's an institutional customer, there are procedures, processes, manual interventions, etc., which a bank does. How do you bring that relationship value, bringing that customer centricity is what I spoke about. On a real-time basis, can I get a view of what that customer's relationship is, what is their value to the bank, and use that as a basis of how do I deal with an individual transaction. Fees, for example. For this customer, because their over, year-to-date value has moved beyond 100 million, my price point is now dropped by 20 basis points. But I should be able to do that at scale. Today, banks do it, but they do not have the ability to monitor it. In the sense, there's a promise made by the institutional customer saying, yes, I will give you 100 million worth of payments a year, and hence I want 25 basis points less compared to XYZ. And that's promised, that's agreed. There's absolutely no way to monitor that on an ongoing basis. Now, for us to move from what I would call the contract into the billing and the settlement together as a single end-to-end process to make sure that the banks don't lose revenue, But the other face of the same coin is that the customer's experience is also absolutely seamless. I give you complete transparency. You are sure that there'll be no shocks because there is nothing which is being charged which you shouldn't be, as an example. Now that end-to-end revenue chain, which we call quote to cash, is what essentially SunTec brings to the table. And I can quote a number of customers who have benefited from this by using either the entire value which we bring or the entire solution which we bring, or pieces of it dependent on their needs.